Welcome to episode 1 of our new show. She is Lais, and I am the coach, and that is the name of our show.
First of all, if there's ever been a time for personal bubble, this is it.
We will always stay true to what we do. What you're doing is going to get you to the next place.
Right.
Throw the list away. It's only a matter of time before you cave.
You can look way better than you used to.
Such a great experience.
Oh, like it knows everything you've given.
Shown curiosity.
What if it actually works?
I've been chopped down como persona.
100%.
An extra
You're city right now. Sometimes it is a member.
Welcome, everybody. Peace out, everybody.
Welcome everybody to Lais The Coach, and on today's episode we have a special guest that is going to walk us through quite the process. If you guys are not familiar with what a triathlon is, today we are going to dive nose deep into all the ins and outs of how somebody goes from not doing a triathlon all the way to doing a bunch of them and then some. So welcome, Jen, to the show.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I guess before we get into the how you got started into doing your first triathlon, let's break down what a triathlon actually is. And I didn't want to do it so that I don't butcher it, but if we could, a basic one, not an Ironman or what is a basic triathlon like?
Okay, so basic triathlon is swimming, biking, running. The only difference between all of the races is just how far each of those events is. So you can start with a very small one, which is called a sprint. It's shorter distance. That tends how a lot of new people get into it.
How much running?
So we're talking, a sprint is short and it varies depending, local ones tend to vary a lot, but it could be a 400-meter swim, a 12-mile bike, and a 3-mile run. So very attainable.
Introductory type.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
So for the person that's curious about, like they've seen it on TV and they're like, I want to do one of those,
Right.
like they could do as little as that.
Correct.
And what is a full triathlon?
So then a full triathlon, at the other end of the spectrum, we are talking a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike, and then a 26.2 or a marathon.
A full marathon.
Full marathon.
And is the order always the same?
It is.
It's so you
Always
swim first,
then
bike
bike.
second, and then you run.
Correct.
Is there a reason why they do it that way?
So you don't drown.
Get that out of the way.
It actually started, the full started in Hawaii, and there were some very competitive people who, some are runners, some are swimmers, and they wanted to see who were the best athletes. And so that's partly how the race came to be.
Okay.
Was that they said, okay, we're going to swim, we're going to bike around the island, and then we're going to run, we're going to see who the best athlete is.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Now we can go all the way back. So what made you decide to, so before I even ask that, were you running, swimming, or biking before your first triathlon?
Right. So I used to live in Ohio, and the weather in the summer is great, but the rest of the year not so much. So I was swimming. I did master's swimming. I grew up swimming. I love it. So that is most comfortable for me. So I was doing master's swimming, and I would run. I'd do races with my friends, 5K up to about a half marathon was the longest I would do. And then I moved to Florida.
Okay.
And I met my now husband, who is into triathlons, and yes,
That's always how it goes.
we started biking together, and eventually I was like, oh, I'll give it a try. I'll try a sprint triathlon and see how it goes. I think in all of it, I wanted to see if I could do it. I wanted to see what I was capable of. And so started with a sprint triathlon.
And
it went
that was your first, like,
it was my first
introduction. Okay.
Yes. And I was not good.
And that was going to be my question. So one of the things that I always tell people is just because you're good at one thing on the fitness spectrum doesn't mean that translates in other areas.
Yeah, right.
If you're a great runner, that doesn't mean that you're going to be great at strength or great at even other cardiorespiratory like things like swimming or biking.
Right.
So how is that for you, considering that you were good in the pool?
Right, so swim's always great, and then I get on the bike and I get passed, right? I'm fast, and then everyone passes me, which is fine. And then running, I'm somewhere in the middle, right? So it's when you're doing a triathlon, it's definitely about the balance, and I think that's what I love about the sport is that there's so much variety. Even if yes, I'm good at swimming, but I love to work on my biking and trying to get better. But that strength component is a big piece too, so that you don't get hurt. So there's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle that really have to come together on the day to make sure that as you go from the swim to the bike to the run, that you can maintain your endurance throughout the entire event.
Got it. And then when you did that first one, did you train for it or did you like just jump into it?
No, I
Okay.
trained.
Listen, you'd be surprised.
I know.
There are people that would just probably go,
Like, oh yeah, I can do
I know,
that.
right?
I'll run into
Right?
it.
Yeah, I was not one of those people. I definitely trained for it.
Okay.
And like I said, I had the swim part, the run part is pretty good, the biking I had worked on a little bit. And just to share like how far I've come. So when I did that first one, it was great. I was so excited, had a great swim, got out on the bike. I was very nervous about the bike, but I made it, got on the run. You know, you finish the race, you're like, yes, I did it. And then a couple days later, got into my email and they take pictures on the course, right? I'm like, yes, I can see what it looks like. I had my bike helmet on backwards
Whoa.
the whole time.
Wow.
I don't even know how I put it on backwards.
oh
but
my gosh, the adrenaline.
right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
That's incredible.
not pretty, but
So,
that's how it started.
like, what a testament to your first go around is never, you know, where you end up. We take a lot of first time competitors to the stage, and a lot of times when somebody's getting ready to do like a bikini show or a fitness show or one of those, like they want to look the way somebody who's done it 10 times looks.
Of course.
And
They're always
they want-
comparing themselves to
and they're always
that.
comparing themselves to that, and she always tells them, you only get that first show once,
That's right.
right? So you want to like
That's right.
enjoy it, and there's going to be like, it's part of the journey, right? Like,
Right.
how are you going to know to check your helmet if you never saw that it was on backwards, right? Like, why would you think that's a thing unless you did it that way?
Right.
It's like anything else, like experience is what teaches us, right? Like what to
Right.
look for, how something feels, what we want to do different.
But we're so afraid to
everybody
make
wants,
mistakes.
we're so afraid to have no experience in a thing that involves, especially other people, right? And so
Right.
that is such a testament to like that first go around. Like you weren't worried about that. You were worried about finishing. Wait till first time, it's all the time. Don't worry about the girl that's done it 10 times.
Right.
Worry about making it to the
Get
stage.
to the show, right?
You know?
Yeah.
So you did that first race, and did you like? When did you say I want to do a full one? Like, was it during the race, after? Like,
Oh, it took a couple years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was a little bit on the slower side of. I just slowly increased my distances.
okay.
I did a half Ironman, and I remember finishing that race saying, "There is no way I would do a full," because it was so tough with the heat and just the distance increase. But gave it another year, and then I was out doing a full.
So between the first race and the half Ironman was a year.
Approximately a year, and then about a
So
year
it didn't happen the
later,
next weekend. Like
No.
most people, like, oh yeah.
No.
Took a whole year of
a
training,
whole year of
and
training.
then another year before you did a full.
Correct.
Okay, so let's go back to that first year, like from first race to half. How did your training change, or what did your training look like?
Right. So it's definitely triathlon is a balance with life. That is one thing. I also coach triathletes, and that is one thing that you, I think, have to recognize first and foremost. So with where I was at, training at the beginning was just getting the miles in and slowly increasing the distance of each of those, right? I'd also had a previous knee injury from years ago, but strength training is also critical. So working in the strength training and figuring out when you could go hard from a distance perspective or intensity perspective, but also not have a strength day like right before it, so you are, your laser spent.
Right, so you need to program
gotta
it the
time it
right
right.
way.
It's that right. So there's programming, and every week is laid out with exactly what it is you're doing on each day, and it builds up till the race day, right?
So you kind of reverse engineer, like,
Right,
where
how
you-
long you have, what you're backing up from, where you're at, what kind of base do you have, and then how do you scale up to meet the distance that you're trying to do.
And is it only because you mentioned the life component, and it's one of the things
Yes.
that we always say, it's like, how do you balance that out, and how much training time goes into it during the course of the week?
Right, so I would say up to a half, it's not too difficult to balance it, right? You do a workout a day and you'd be in good shape. As you get into a full, that is where I highly advise someone to not put the pressure on themselves to try to do something that time intensive. If, for example, they have young kids and they're involved in a lot of sports and they don't have time and they have a full-time job and those types of things, it will take, it's like a part-time job is basically how
I was going to say, what's that time commitment
you're looking at 15 on the most highest 20 hours a week of training.
That's what I've seen.
Yeah, it's intense. And
Wow.
I mean, not every week is like that. You definitely have high
but
weeks.
there's a commitment.
There is a huge commitment.
Right, it's not 45 minutes a day I'm going to knock this out, right?
And there's 2 days sometimes.
Because then, just for context, how long does it take to finish a full Ironman? Worst case scenario.
You have 17 hours to finish.
You have 17 hours to finish. There's no way in 45 minutes a day you're gonna build this into your busy life.
Zero.
So there's some commitment involved.
There's definitely commitment.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about like the costs? Like, what does a bike cost? What is?
We're really getting into
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. 100%.
No, it's,
Because
you know,
there's so many.
and I'll tell you why I asked. Again, in our world, a lot of times some of the costs come as a surprise. You've got to pay to compete.
Right.
You've got to pay for your bikini. You've got to pay for
Hair,
hair, makeup,
for your
like,
coaching,
you've got
for
like
posing.
everything comes at a cost,
Right.
Right.
And I think that sometimes, even for people that realize that, I guess subconscious is like, oh, I have to pay. It's like everything you have to pay
That's a
for.
lot.
Every hobby, if it's a hobby, comes at a cost. And if you want to really pursue it, the cost is even higher.
Of
So-
time and money.
So on a recreational side, not somebody who is like
All in.
competitive, all in.
All in.
Yeah.
A recreational triathlete, like bike, running, swimming, like let's go over all of that.
All right. Swimming's not too bad. We'll start with the easy one.
Right.
Swimsuit, goggles,
Mhm.
pretty basic, not too expensive. Bike, that is, it's a wide range, right? I was looking at a new bike. I did not get it. It is the price of the car.
Really?
It can be. It can be, right? The lighter and the components of the bike,
Which is what someone's looking for.
right? Because it does give you. There is some time advantage. It's not you are still the engine of that bike, right?
Right.
Which is a key point. Like you still have to be a strong.
The best
body.
bike isn't going to make you faster if you're not good.
Right.
But if you're good, it can give you a
It
little
can
bit
go
of an
to
edge.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So a nice bike, it could be 15,000, 20,000.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be.
And is that your is that also your training bike or is that your race day bike?
So I train on mine as well. So I'll put it on a trainer in the house. I'll ride it out on the roads on the weekend. And yes, that is my bike. Some
Okay.
people have multiple bikes. It just
They have
depends.
a training bike and then they have a race day bike.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Got
they
it.
might
And
have
you need other things, right, to bike ride, like a
the
helmet.
shoes, the
The
helmet,
shoes, right.
the outfit,
Yeah.
right? Like the tri-kits, running, obviously just.
Well, what does the outfit cost?
So a tri-suit, oh, it's probably $200-$300.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
And the shoes.
Shoes, bike shoes, probably around 100 plus.
Okay. And
Running
helmet.
shoes now are what, 150 easily, right? And then helmet.
Yeah.
That you don't have to replace too often, but that's probably $200-$300. You've got gloves, you've got sunglasses, you have nutrition. The nutrition costs, especially when you're training for a full.
We're gonna get into the eating.
Yeah.
That whole
Because-
piece.
That's the jam, the eating.
Yeah.
But I think it's important a lot of times because, for example, with kids, and we say this all the time, kids have a thing. After school they do soccer or baseball, or
Cheerleading, whatever.
whatever their thing is. But all kids have a thing, and then you become an adult and you don't no longer have a thing,
Right.
and you wonder why you're bored or you got nothing going on. But even those things come at a cost, financial and time-wise.
Right.
It's odd that we don't necessarily always see the translation. It's like you're giving your weekend to go to a tournament, like we do karate tournaments, and it's all day Saturday. But then when it comes to you doing it for you, it's like, oh, I gotta do that all day. Like
Right.
it's very difficult sometimes. So the translation in cost, financial cost and time cost is the same as an adult. sometimes even more,
Right.
especially if you want to pursue it beyond the hobby
Right.
status.
Right.
So you do your first half, and were you interested in progressing because of the challenge, or were you more like, man, I can't believe this was that hard? Which thing pushed you over the edge to go full?
Yeah, it was to see what I could do.
Okay.
In all of this, it's almost an addiction, right? You do the race and you look back and you're like, oh, I could have run faster. I could have done this better. And you want to go do the next race to see what you can do, to see how you can push yourself. So the full for me, especially on the first, I would say the first 3 that I did, can I do this? It was always a question, can I do this? And it was
Can I
almost
finish?
like, right, can I just prove to myself that I can do this?
You still weren't looking at improvements in terms of performance?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
for the first.
So the first 3 races were like, can I get this done? Can I even do this?
Right.
Like, okay.
Let's see if I can do it a little bit better, but it was never from a competitive angle till after that.
I love this conversation for the people that are normally watching us for 2 reasons. One, because we do talk a lot about fitness and nutrition and life and all the things, but mostly a lot of times it is from a body transformation, photo shoots, shows and stuff like that. So this is like a whole other world, which I know you're very familiar with, but it's like your thing.
Right.
But on the other side, the parallels, right? Like how many things are the same but different, right? So from the cost to the time to the, are you going to be competitive or not? So it's like, I love to continue to dive deeper into also the like we'll bring up the shows a lot because again, it's a lot of the stuff that we do because there are so many similarities because even what you're saying now, it's like, we tell people all the time, I say it all the time, first 1, 2, even 3 shows, right? It's like, it should be about your transformation. It should be about what can you do. It should be about you. You shouldn't be looking at the girl on Instagram. You shouldn't be looking at the girl next to you on stage. It should really just be about you. And that's one of the things that I like about other sports that aren't the stage is that because there are more concrete rules, right? Like this is the time, this is the distance, versus our sport is very subjective.
Right.
So you get caught up in your feelings a lot more than facts versus something like what you do. You can be like, well, then I need to chip off this much. Right. You say this all the time. And so the thing with that is it's like, I wish more people went into our sport with that mentality of like, these first few ones, I'm not thinking about being competitive. I'm not thinking about where I score, where I rank, what the person next to me is doing.
It's all me.
It's me. Like, cause this is for you. Cause one of the things that people ask all the time with stage is like, well, what do you get? Right? And it's like, what do you get? Right? Cause you're spending a fuck ton of money too. And you're spending all this time and you're doing all this stuff. It's like, what do you get? Like the personal satisfaction of like, I can do this. What can I do? How much can I do?
Yeah.
And that is what it means to have a freaking hobby.
Right.
Kid or adult. I know that for kids, a lot of times people are like, well, maybe they go to college for this, or maybe they get a job in this. It's like, you can say the same thing about an adult, right? You coach, we coach, if you could make a career out of something. But for the most part, a hobby is a hobby is a hobby. And it's for fun, and it's for you. And it's for you, for your person. So first 3, personal satisfaction.
100%.
So let's also go back to the training component and the food component, because I don't think that people actually have the ability to understand how much energy you're burning while you're training. Mostly because I think that people look at their gadgets, right? Like, and they're like, oh, my watch said I did this. I'm like, that doesn't always translate the right way. Like that it's great to see a number, but it doesn't actually translate into how much work somebody's putting in and how that actually feels. So how many hours a week were you giving it that first year on an average?
The first year was probably not much, maybe 5, 6
5,
hours.
6, like normal workout. And then year 1 to year 2 where you went half to full. Did that go up to 10, 15?
It would, yeah, it would. But it wouldn't be, it's hard to say for the full year, right? Because you have high peaks and then you recover and there's periodization to it. So when I was in the thick of it, you would scale up 10, 15 hours.
And then how are you factoring in your fueling strategy? Were you, did you do it in a way that it was going to specifically impact your training? Or were you trying to figure out how to maximize that so that it would impact your training?
Right, so when we talk about fueling, there's 2 key things. One is while you're actually working out. So if you do any activity endurance-wise over an hour, you start to dip into fuel reserves. So that's where you get things you might hear gels. There's calories you can put into your water. So your hydration's giving you the calories you need. So for any workout that's over an hour, you have to consider, what are the conditions? Is it hot? Am I out on a bike and I'm sweating to death and I'm losing a lot of fluid? And how do I get the calories? How do I get the
Well, water's not enough, right?
Right. Oh no. Right. So there's the component of training while you're training nutrition, and then obviously the nutrition that you have throughout the day to fuel a workout. Like, what are you eating before a workout? What are you eating after a workout? Protein's a huge piece after a workout so that you can recover, so that the next day you can go back and have a
train
workout
some
and
more.
not feel so crappy. But these are a lot of things that, if you don't dive into this world and be curious about how nutrition plays a role, you might miss it. It's going to make training more difficult.
And were you cycling through calorie, or how were you tracking? Was it calorically, or were you doing it macro wise? Was it a combination of both? Like, how are you juggling the ins and outs of your fueling strategy?
Right. So when it came to actual workouts and races, would track calories during the endurance event.
Okay.
Mainly to make sure that you're staying on track. You also, I think, have to know your own body and know when, okay, I need some more fuel. If I'm going to a dark place and I'm like, I can't do this is horrible, that is a sign you need calories.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's also knowing your body, knowing what you need, but tracking those calories becomes very important so you can replicate what works or what doesn't work as you're doing the training.
And how much were you eating on a regular day? Caloric, like, were you in
Caloric,
surplus?
No,
Couldn't
probably not a, no.
Right.
Especially when it was heavy training, and I will say, never track I've never tracked my calories around just regular.
And how much were you burning on average?
I don't track that either.
You don't track that either?
Wow.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So you track mostly like during the race,
Just during,
not
the
leading
events.
up to it or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I don't want to get so consumed. I appreciate the data, I look at the data, but I don't want to be driven by counting calories. And for me, it's not so much about, I'm not worried about what my weight is, I'm not worried about how I look. I want to make sure I am strong and fueled.
Right. All
So I
performance.
can do,
Performance only. Mm-hmm.
right, I can do the event that I want to do.
And then what would a typical heavy training day look like for you on the food side? Like, what time do you wake up? What do you eat?
Mm-hmm.
And like, walk us through like
If it's a heavy big
heavy
day,
And you did say you go to a dark place, right?
you
Okay,
can.
no, because I want to circle back to that. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, normal day, heavy
Normal
training day. You get up and do you train in the morning or?
I like the morning. I
Okay.
prefer the morning. But it's like Saturdays, if you, on a heavy day, you can
Mhm.
start working out at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and not be done till 1 or 2.
Okay.
Okay? So with that in mind, carbs are key, right?
And
So
does it start the night before? I'm sorry to keep
it
cutting
does.
you
It
off.
would.
Okay.
No, it
Yeah.
definitely would, right?
Okay.
Like the decisions
Yeah.
you make the night before definitely set you up. Like if
Right.
you went out and let's just say you even had a couple drinks with friends. If you wake up that next morning even slightly dehydrated, you're already in
You're
a
already
hole
off. Right.
going into
Yeah.
what we train in, which is heat and humidity, right? So the day starts definitely hydration, big carb, like waffle or bagel, something dense.
Dense.
But you also have to know what your body can tolerate. But
And
also,
how much do you hydrate in the morning?
like a water bottle.
Like
type
16
of
ounces?
ounce,
Like,
yes.
okay.
Yep. And some protein.
Okay.
And then, you let that digest. Let's say I drive out to Claremont, ride my bike. Yeah. It gives it time to digest, take in the fuel, and then you start working out. And then it becomes almost like a race day nutrition plan. Okay, I'm gonna do a gel every 30 minutes once I get past
And the gel pack for you guys listening are all simple carbs?
They are,
Okay,
yes.
so all sugar.
Yeah. Because you're burning through calories so quickly.
A lot of glucose.
A lot of glucose, you've got to replace that. It does get a little bit much on the sweet side a lot of times, right? But
You need it.
that's what keeps you going.
Okay.
And then the key thing when I would finish is then protein.
And how many
shake.
gel packs do you go through?
It would depend on how long. If I was out on the bike, I would mix between gels. There's also like small chews that you can do, but it was on a time basis of about 30 minutes, getting something in, and also I had calories in my hydration bottle.
Okay.
And how long would that bike ride be?
It could be 4 or 5 hours sometimes.
Okay.
With a run after. So that's the other thing. If there's a run after, right? You don't want to not fuel correctly and then you hit that run. If you haven't, you will know right away. You know, you kind of hit that wall of, oh gosh.
So you're doing what you need to do to not only stay on that bike, but for the thing that you're about to do right after.
Right. And then post workout, is there a big period of time between the time that you're done and that meal, or are you trying to replenish right away?
You try to replenish. I was never really hungry right afterwards. I do the protein shake, and then it might be like an hour later having a meal. Again, trying to get protein, carbs. You're trying to replace basically the storage tanks that you just emptied.
Mm-hmm.
And is your next day an off day?
Usually, so if I did like a long bike and
On Saturday
run,
and Sunday would be off.
like a swim.
Okay.
Easy, maybe something on the easier side.
Okay.
Maybe not.
And then getting ready to train again on Monday. Right. And then are you training 7 days a week when you're in season, let's say?
Yeah, for me, I will say everybody recovers a little bit differently. Some people can go without a recovery day. I found I need 1 day every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Just like 1 day every 2 weeks, kind of see
like full nothing. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you see that influences your performance over the next like 24, 48 hours? Is your performance a little bit slower after a full recovery day just because you haven't done anything, but you still feel like you need it?
No, not necessarily. No. Yeah, again, it's all personal.
Right,
yeah,
it's different.
But I felt like I was a little bit fresher, like just a little perkier. My fatigue score would get pretty high, and then that day gave me the break I needed to come back feeling like ready to go for another 2 weeks.
Okay, now fast forward for triathlon. How did it feel during the race? Like, was it tougher in race than you expected it to be? Or were you mentally for the first full?
Yeah, first full, I think it went quicker than I thought it would. The amount of things you have to think about, the logistics, I guess I thought maybe get bored. It's a long time to be moving your body.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Are you listening to anything?
No. You are not allowed.
You're not allowed.
No, there is no.
So you gotta be in your head the whole time.
You are in your head.
I don't think anybody spends that much time in their head if they're
in
not
their
racing.
lifetime.
Right? Like, when was the last
These days?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Like even yesterday I was doing yoga and I was like constantly like recording and picking up my phone and talking to my kids. It's like you're never just zoned out.
Yep.
All right. Where was that first one?
First one was Chattanooga.
All right.
Okay. How long did it take you to finish?
Oh, first one took around 14 hours.
Okay.
14 hours.
14 hours of moving.
And in your head.
Yes.
So let's talk about that for a second. We were actually just talking about that earlier today. Let's talk about the mental component.
Yes.
And then let's talk about the dark place a little bit while training. On the mental side, which is one of the things that I don't think gets addressed enough in any sport. Because everybody feels like it's like if you're a competitive athlete, it's all about what you can do. And then for us that we do like stage and aesthetics, it's about how you look. But nobody's ever talking about the thoughts that you're thinking while you're doing what you're doing. What are you thinking about while you're training? Is it like your performance? Are you thinking about the laundry? Like
training, like leading up to your race.
Right.
Both. No,
I'm behind schedule.
Yeah. There was a point when there was just a switch that flipped for me when I said I wanted to get competitive with this, and I did work with a mindset coach.
Okay.
So it's almost hard for me to remember what it was like before that. Yeah.
Different version of you.
It was. It really was. Because I think after working and realizing what I needed from a mindset perspective, it was going into a workout with intent, right? So if it's an easy workout and I know I need to keep it easy, sure, I'll watch Netflix while I'm on my bike trainer. It's an easy workout. But if it is hard intervals and I need to bring it, you can choose to go into that and say, I'm going to bring my full self. And there were times where I'm like, I don't know if I can do those intervals, but I had to commit. I had to show up differently and know that I had to try my best to hit that interval, which means you need to stay focused on that workout, right? So while on the race, you can't listen to anything. Like, I might listen to music, because if that's going to help me hit that interval, then that's what I'm going to do, right? But the mindset is huge, right? Of training and showing up with purpose and understanding the decisions you're making and how you're showing up and how that's going to impact that training session, for sure.
Why do you think there's such a gap in speaking about it and coaching or seeking coaching on the mindset side? Like, I think that we see it more and more and more. Like, the thought process that people have in general isn't necessarily gearing them toward excelling at anything. But I think on the sports side, like, it's so rarely spoken about. Unless you are at the elite of the elite level, where like every decision matters, right? Like, another yard, another inch, another second, like, you've got to have a better set of thoughts. But then why on the other side, are we just not, like, are we all just floating through life? Like,
it's almost like you're either mediocre or you're like a LeBron James. It's like, well, of course, like, it's that person. I mean, they do this for a living, or they get paid that much to do it. Like what happens to the in between, right? Because we were talking about that, and it's almost like the mindset component is just as important as everything else that you do. Like, because of the intent, right? It's like, because what drives it. It's the engine. And I asked about the laundry because it's one of those, you know, you send somebody a program, they have their workout. Are they getting to the gym thinking about the 72 things they got at home? And like, let me just get through these curls, let me do this, let me do these squats really quick. It's like, you know, what's happening?
It's a great question, right? I do think it's becoming more normal to talk about mindset, and I think those who are curious there are channels now to find the type of information to help in that space, but it's still, it's probably not talked about enough. And it's easier to talk about physical performance and physical numbers, right? It's way easier. When you look for a triathlon coach, they're looking, you know, I need a plan, I need the physical, tell me what to do, but they're not saying, what about the mindset piece? Right. But that, to me, is just as critical, right? So just to bring this full circle, a long time ago, like when I was very early in my 20s, I had knee surgery, I was recovering from that, I was on an elliptical, and I used to always watch the Ironman World Championships in Kona, always. And I remember distinctly being on the elliptical and thinking, I can never do that. I can never do, like, these people are amazing. Like, I can never do that. That's crazy. Right. Yeah. So fast forward, I do one, I do the 3, and then I said to myself, I wanted to go to Kona. And I changed my mindset. I said, I am a Kona qualifier. It wasn't, oh, I hope I go to the race one day. I really want to go to Kona. Wouldn't that be nice? I flipped it to, I will be a Kona qualifier. I am a Kona qualifier.
Hold on. You don't just go to Kona.
You do not.
You don't just say, oh, I'll buy a ticket.
Yeah, I wish.
It doesn't just
happen. No, you have to place 1, 2, maybe 3 top in your age group at an Ironman race. I had never podiumed before. I'm like middle of the pack, right? But I'm like, I'm going to commit. And it changed everything, right? Because it changed how I showed up for myself.
A really big goal.
It was huge, right? It was huge.
It was much bigger than yourself.
It was bigger than anything I'd ever done before or ever thought that I could do.
And I love that, because that is what we always say. The only way to make a massive shift and to become the next version of yourself and to see what you're truly capable of is to set a massive goal that seems literally impossible.
Like impossible.
Impossible.
In retrospect, would you have done all of the things you did having not set that goal?
No.
Because there would have been no reason for it.
No.
Right?
Right. I mean, that's when I had coaches, but that's when I'm like, okay, I need a coach who can support me on this journey. I realized I had some mindset things I needed to work through. I got a mindset coach, right? And it just changed how I showed up for every day. Like, would a Kona qualifier go to bed early so you can get up and work out? Yep, I'm
in bed early.
I'm gonna go to bed, right? Am I gonna eat healthy so I'm feeling good on my workout? Yes, I'm going to do, right? It just changed. It almost like levels you up when if you put yourself in the shoes of who you want to be, and think of yourself in that way, I think it just changes.
And you act like that person
you act like
would,
that person.
right?
Even though you're not that person.
You're gonna
Right.
be that person.
You're leaning into
So
that.
then walk us through that. So then what happens?
So it took, from there it was about 2 years. I did do races. I showed up really well at Ironman Florida. I got 8th. I mean, literally middle of the pack. I got 8th.
That's huge.
Right. I did not qualify for Kona, right? They took the top 2 because it's a percentage game. So the way, just for those
Yes.
triathlon.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the championship, men and women used to race on the same day, so there were only so many slots. They only allowed a couple women in each age group. They changed it that year, and they had women on their own day, men on their own day, different location, and it opened up more women's spots. So what I thought was not a Kona qualification, fast forward a few months, I got an email saying that you had qualified, because it rolled down. But I at least put myself in a position by coming in 8th to be high enough to get that spot, and so I qualified for Kona.
Wow.
I mean, the universe helped me out a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah, but
Listen.
still,
It always does.
How many people usually are in a race like that? Like, how many people were you placed 8th? Do you know?
There were, in the Florida,
Yeah.
where I qualified, overall there's around 2,000 athletes that
What?
compete, mostly men. I will
Okay,
say it's
okay.
definitely weighted more men
Okay.
than women, but that's why our numbers are smaller. So in a male's division, they do it by a percentage, right? So they might get 5 people that go, but we're fewer, and so we get less.
Got
Used
it.
to get less numbers, but now they were trying to create more.
I love that.
between it.
Okay.
Yeah. So then it was a women's only race in Kona, which was amazing. It's just a totally different vibe.
Kona, Hawaii.
Yes, in Hawaii, Kona, Hawaii.
Oh, crazy!
All women competing the full day.
And I don't want to go into the travel and any of that yet, because I do want to circle back to the dark place.
You really like this dark place.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll tell
We'll
you.
need it.
I think that a lot of times we're getting softer and softer and softer in all areas of life. If something is just a little bit harder than it needs to be, we just won't. And I mean that, like, if the grocery store is too far, I'm just not going to go. If it's raining outside, I'm not going to go outside today. If it is hotter outside than normal, it's too hot. Like, we are softening up the reasons why we won't do something to extremes that are like, are you ever going to do anything? Right? And then on the other side, we have this is going to be so hard that I'm going to black out in my mind, because if I don't, I can't endure it, right?
Yeah.
How often do you find yourself in your training program having to go into that place where nothing can matter?
I would say, it's selective, right? It's not something that you
don't wake up and like, today's the day.
Right. I think, again, it's back to like, what's the intent of the workout? I'm like, I need to bring it today, right? And showing up for that when you know it's going to be hard, as you're saying, you show up for it. You don't back away from it. There is a term called micro quitting, which means,
I love that.
yeah, you're going to love this one. So you still show up for a workout, like you were talking about, right? You're going to lift the weights. You got to get through the reps. But you're somewhere else. Or you say, you know what, I really was supposed to do 10, but I'm only going to do 8. Like, this is really hard. I'll do it next time, right? There's this version of you still show up and you still somewhat go through the motions, but you're micro quitting on yourself by backing away from what
fullness.
the full objective is of what you're trying to achieve.
I love that.
Yes.
Micro quitting.
Micro quitting.
Man,
Right.
that's great. Mic drop there.
Yeah.
If I had one of those buttons, I would press it.
Oh my
Dun,
God.
dun, dun.
We need a button.
Which is so it's easy to do, right? Like, you think you're still, I'm doing
Well, I
it.
did.
right?
I did.
I
I showed up.
I did most of it.
I always say, or one of the things that I've said to our people is, there's 2 different versions of 100%. There's the 100% required, and then there's 100% that you're willing to give it, right? And then that one's on a scale depending on how you feel that day. But just because you gave it your all doesn't mean that that's what was required. So your expectations should always match what you're willing to give it and what you actually give it. Not, well, you said this was it. I'm like, yeah, if you did it that way. right? But you didn't do it that way, did you? You did it this way. So that's what we're gonna get. We're gonna get 100% of whatever effort we put into whatever activity we are giving it.
Yeah, because I think people are comparing it to what they would have done otherwise. Like I was going to do anything.
Right.
But it's like, that doesn't mean you did everything.
And then, so let's go. So you did the first full Ironman or triathlon.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a triathlon and an Ironman?
So Ironman is just the branding, right?
Okay.
There are other full distance races, but Ironman tends to have the majority of them.
Got it.
Right, and it's the most recognized.
The most recognized.
brand.
All right,
Yeah.
but it's a full triathlon.
It's the full.
And then between that first full one that you did and Kona was 2 years?
No, that was first full one was in 17, and then Kona was in 23.
Oh, so there were a lot of races
Lot of
in
years,
between.
yes.
Okay.
6 years.
Yes, I've done 7 full races, including Kona, in those years.
Wow.
How many did you total?
7 fulls.
7
total.
fulls.
I can't even count. I don't know how many halves.
Wow.
Those are like
Wow.
what? So I have 2 questions. One is what life circumstances would have normally prevented you from doing it? And what I'm asking is for someone who's got, we always say life doesn't stop because you want to pick up this hobby, right? You still got work, you still got life, you still got, laundry,
Spouses,
cooking,
kids,
everything, right? It's like,
responsibilities.
how many things would have normally been obstacles, but then the way that you were approaching it is what changed?
I think it's making the decision that it's a priority, right? That this is something that I'm committed to, that I want to make happen. I think that, again, back to that, making a life decision that this is what you're going to lean into versus just saying you're going to do it. If you have other things competing for your time and it isn't a priority, guess what's not going to happen? The workouts are not going to happen, right? And yes, you could go do the race and it's going to be really painful and it's likely not going to go the way that you want it, right? So I do think it's making that decision that this is a priority. This is something I want to do and I want to show up well for it.
So along the way, you still had birthdays and travel and
all
life
the
didn't
things.
stop.
Family,
Full-time job.
Life kept
travel.
lifing.
Yeah, life kept lifing. And it's a give and take, right? Sometimes you have to show up for life. Like, I'm not saying
Right.
it's totally
For
after
sure.
hours, right? But
Totally.
it's managing those 2 things in a way that lets you show up your best for both. Really.
And how would you structure like social situations when you were in season? Meaning like you're in the middle of your training season and there's a get together or there's a family thing or whatever, because we often handle a lot of those.
Right. I would not say I was the life of the party. I mean, I would still show up, and I'm fortunate that my family supported me in it, which I also think is critical. That's your partner, whoever family supports your decision to do what you
No one was on the other side saying, "You're gonna run again?
Right.
Aren't you tired of
Right.
running?"
Like, I can't imagine training if somebody was saying that versus like, go get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, and I also have friends. I guess I'm surrounding myself with people who are trying to achieve a lot of the same things. So I have a lot of runner friends, and they get it, right? If
And that was
someone has a
going
race
to
coming
be
up,
my follow-up question. It's like,
Yes.
how much did you immerse yourself in your process?
Totally
Total
yeah.
immersion.
I mean, it's
Your friends were runners, family understood. If you went to
Right.
it, did you go to races to watch?
yes.
Did you watch races?
It's your thing.
It's one of the things that we tell people often. Like, we go to shows to watch. Even if we don't have somebody who's in that show. We're fans of the sport. I watch it on TV daily. Like, there's not a day that goes by that there is not something bodybuilding related.
Drama.
Right, whether it's gossip or who won this weekend.
Yes.
This weekend there was a show in Germany, and we were at a family thing, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I gotta know what's happening, right? It's like,
Because it's your thing.
It is.
but I feel like a lot of times when people are dabbling in this, they're not going to get the most out of it because they're dabbling in it in all ways. The way they train, the way they eat, even the way that they're spectators.
The way they
dabble.
immerse themselves.
They're just not all in all the
They're
way,
not.
but they do want the outcome. They do want what's on the other
They
side.
want all in outcome without all in
effort.
everything else.
That is, yeah, sounds familiar.
And that's just not how it works.
No.
And that doesn't feel good because when you do half-ass something or you do have one foot in, one foot out, you're always on the outside and you're always like, man, like I wish I had looked like that, or I wish I had thought about that for a bikini, or I wish I had gone watched this show. Like there's a constant FOMO because you do want to, but then you say, but I'm busy, but my kids, but my job, but my this, and it's like everybody has that, right? But everything comes with something. Everything comes at a cost. It's just decisions. All we have is, like
prioritization.
time and choices. So you gotta be wise with both. So then it's like, how much do you want to pour into the things that actually matter? And we say this all the time. It's not that this has to be first on the list. It's not that you have to be first, but everything has to be on top. Right? Instead of like 1, 2, and 3, it's like, are they all right next to each other? And all of this matters, So why do you do it?
Why do I do it? I want to see what I can achieve. It's my way to keep pushing and seeing what I can do. But even in that process, like I have figured out a lot about myself throughout this entire journey. But I also love coaching. And I love helping take people through the process and for them to see what they can achieve, right? To think, wow, I could never do that, and then to be able to do it and to take them through that process. Like that to me is just as rewarding, which I'm sure you
Right.
coaches, you guys probably get that too. But
Yeah.
it's taking people through that and seeing the transformation and again, showing up and seeing what they can do.
Because you unlocked it for yourself, because the same thing happened to me, right? You did something that was so insane that you never imagined doing, and it's almost like you unlock this like other world, and you have the key, and you want to like give it to other people.
Right.
To be like, here, go there too,
Yeah.
so you can see what this is like, because most people don't think that they can, or they don't even think about that at all.
Right.
So I 100% get what you're saying.
We often talk about different identity shifts. How many did you say you went through, like, since you started? How many different versions of you have you met along the way?
Probably a lot. There's probably a lot, right? I feel like you start out and you have so many questions and you create stories in your head too, right? Like I hear all the time, this is one that just pops up, like I'm not a runner. People say that all the time. Oh, I'm not a runner.
I'm
It's a story. It's a story, right? You tell yourself, like if you put on shoes and you go outside and you run, you're a runner.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're the fastest, but so I feel like we tell ourselves certain stories and we have to break down certain paradigms in our head as we evolve and achieve new things, and then you get a little more confident and then you achieve a little bit more, and you just have to shift, if you want to. You have to want to. To me, it's staying curious, it's continuing to grow. To your point, immersing, like always listening, what's the latest, how can I do it differently, but you have to kind of love it and enjoy it.
But to the point of the versions, you do have to let the other ones die.
You do.
Right? Because
Yeah.
if not, you can't step into the next one, because you can only step into the next one without the previous one. The previous one's great, right?
It's there for
awesome, I
reference,
love
right?
you, and I remember you, and that's the only reason we're here. But like, you have to go.
Right.
I think a lot of people are afraid of letting old versions of themselves die because they don't know what the new one looks like, and they're so familiar with that past version, even if it's limited, right? Even if that version doesn't allow them to do these new set of things, it's comfortable. And then we go back to, we live in this weird comfort of not even wanting to try or experience new things, just so that we have this familiarity about.
There's a fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so interesting because you worked so hard to become this new person, but then you almost like don't want to like fully be.
We'll
that.
see.
But you're not quite sure if you're there yet. You're like in the messy
You're
middle.
dabbling.
Yeah.
We will see it in a lot of ways. Like, for example, somebody will come to us that isn't in great shape and isn't secure and isn't confident, and then they'll go through a transformation, they'll get on stage and do a photo shoot, they'll dress different, they'll walk different, they'll do that.
Right.
But then a few months go by and you start to see them go backwards again, right? It's like they really didn't go, like they saw it, they got a glimpse of it, right? And it's like little by little, every decision that they make after that moment starts to like retro them back.
Right.
Like, how important is the next goal? Sorry, because I always go like that.
It's okay, what if you're gonna punch me on camera?
How important is the next goal? So for example, you finished the race, how important was it to know when the next one was? How important is the next milestone in order to not go backwards?
Right. I just laugh because there's actually among triathletes, it's very common for you finish a race. It is extremely painful, all the things, and you get so excited crossing the finish line, and within a couple days you sign up for another race, and you have forgotten all pain,
all the
hours, everything, because you're just on that high. And when you train for something for so long, and it takes up so much time in your life, and then you achieve it, it's common. Like after Kona, I really struggled of hitting a low place. Now I always believed in moving my body. I still was doing things, but it just was a heaviness.
We call it post-show blues.
Yeah, it definitely, there's a depressive piece to it of like, I just achieved this really big thing.
Yeah.
I think the next goal it's critical, right? It gives you something to look at, to look forward to, right? And to kind of keep an eye on the progress.
How do you handle bad training days?
So,
whether it be you feel sick or life stress, how do you handle those?
You can't look at it as a failure. It's a learning. It's something happened to make you not perform great that day. What was it? Did you not sleep well? Did I not eat right? Was it just 110 degrees out? And we're gonna learn from that. But that's the one thing with triathlon, you have to learn. You have to figure out what's gonna set you up the best. And every failed workout just is a learning for you to take into the next one, right? It's like a backpack of learnings that you're gonna reference in the future, that you just have to evolve and go with it. If you look at it as a failure, how frustrating is that, right? So.
And how much of a jump was your last triathlon before Kona to Kona, like in terms of performance, preparation, time, like how much did you have to like quantum jump into that version of you?
So the interesting thing behind the story, I did an Ironman in April.
Okay.
Kona's in October. Okay. After April, I kept my base. I didn't know I had Kona yet. So in July, from end of July to October, I had to get ready for Kona. In July, I was probably at my lowest because I had gotten sick. I had gotten a stomach bug that sent me back 2 weeks, which at the time I'm like, oh, this stinks, but okay. I was just recovering from that when I got the email that I was into Kona. So I had from the end of July to October, which is not
a lot of time.
So I had the base, which was good, but it was definitely, I don't like pushing the distance that hard, that fast, because you're at more risk for injury. Mm-hmm. But in this case, there was no way I was not doing Kona.
You're like, screw it.
I risked it, and so it was it was a roller coaster, right? Of like really low, sick, and just building back up to hit that.
And what's the travel like when you go to a race that far? What are you bringing with you? Bring all your stuff.
Yeah.
How early do you bring your bike, everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've chosen races where I drive, so it's much easier to manage my bike.
Your stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But yes, Hawaii is a whole, I mean, everything was in my carry-on as much as possible so that if luggage got lost, it was not as big of a deal. But the bike goes in a case that goes with the airline. And fingers crossed it shows up. And it did, knock on wood, it all went well.
Good.
But yeah, it's traveling for triathlon with all the equipment is quite a logistical.
And how early do you get to Hawaii before the race?
I want to say we got there Tuesday, race was Saturday.
Okay, so like
you have a couple days, try to
acclimate
get time
yourself.
change.
Right. And then once that big one was done, right? Like you go back to the moment on the elliptical and you see it through. Once you got past the I don't know what to do next now part, it's like what was the next big goal?
So training, I had done 3 full Ironmans within a year time space. So Kona, Ironman Texas, Ironman Florida. So it was a lot. I also full-time job, traveled a lot, and honestly it was a little bit of burnout at that point. So just recognizing like, okay, I'm gonna focus a little bit more on my career, and actually went back to doing shorter distance to find the love of the sport again.
Not quit.
Not quit, oh no.
Important.
We're not doing that.
No, just doing some smaller local races was so fun. And again, it's part of it is showing up to the race and seeing other people achieve their goals, and to go back to that moment of when it all began, your first race.
Because you do get far removed from it.
You do. And to go back and see other people live through those moments and achieve those things as well, it just brought joy to me to be able to do it. So that, I was focused on that. Then fast forward a few months and I got injured, and I've been injured ever since.
Wow.
So I'm on the road to it. I will get there. I now know what is wrong. I have a torn labrum in my hip, which is causing some pretty significant pain. Surgery will happen, and then I will figure the path forward, but it'll definitely be braces.
Right. So when you say burnout, just yes. Is the burnout physical? Is it mental? Is it both?
It was a little bit of both, and I say it was not so much from the sport itself. Yes, it was a lot of hours of training. It took up a lot of my life for a full year, but there was also a lot of burnout on the job front. Okay. And so I think it was the accumulation of a lot of demands that I put on myself that I chose, and then some that were also happening from work, and the combination of the two, I needed a hot minute to just maybe not race. And it's also, I have an amazing husband who has supported me this entire time. He does triathlons, but hasn't done them for a while. He would go with me to the races, he would support me, and we had a little bit of agreement that after Kona, we balance out a little bit more. We needed to do some more family things. We needed to do some other things than,
because everything comes with something, right? You pour time and energy into something else isn't going to get it. That's
you tip the scale. There's no way around it.
Right, totally tip the scale, and I just needed to tip it back a little bit.
And there's been a few moments where you've said, that was a choice. That was a choice. I think that a lot of people don't own that, right? They sometimes fall victim to, this is taking a lot of time. It's like, yeah, but you chose to do this, right? Like, nobody's forcing you to get ready for one of these shows, right? You raised your hand and said, I want to do this. Like, great.
Don't forget it.
Here's the map. Here are all the things required to get this done. Like, let's rock and roll with it. It's like along the way when things get hard, people forget that they chose to do it. Did you ever have moments like that where you were like, I can't believe I chose to do this? Like,
of course. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always those moments where you're like, man, why did I? The early wake up call, like, why did I choose to do this? Just want to sleep in bed. But no, in the end of the day, never regret it, but it is owning your choice and
honoring it. Because I think that a lot of times that is like you go on this path because you want a thing, or because you want to prove to yourself, or because you want to look better, or because you want to see what you're capable of. But then when you don't honor your choice, then you start to feel bad about yourself instead of good about yourself. Because that's the whole point of the entire journey.
How, I've seen it, but how late into life do people start doing triathlons, and how late in life are they still doing it?
Right, so there are people competing in their 80s. Not that many, but there are definitely some.
So yes, it's possible.
It's definitely possible. I was in my mid to late 30s before I got into it.
Okay.
Right? So, you could get into it
anytime,
any age.
Right.
Yeah.
And scale up.
Yep.
So I ask it because a lot of people have decided that they're just not going to move anymore because it's like, well, I'm older. It's like, I can't do what I used to do.
That's the story they're telling themselves. Yep.
There's some friends of ours have a really cool quote that says, the story you tell is the truth you know, and I use it all of the time because everything that we believe is a story, right?
Right.
Because if you haven't tried to do it, then you don't really know.
Right. But it is your reality.
Right?
Correct. 100%.
What would you say to anyone who is, after having done everything that you've done, who is almost like you were on the elliptical, like where they're watching it and they see it, but they're like, I could never do that. Like that person that's on the edge of wanting to take that leap, but they keep going back to, next year maybe, or I could never, like, what do you say to that person in any endeavor, right? Like that is wanting to do something bigger than themselves, but just can't find their way of either taking the step or sending the message to the person that can help them. Like, what do you, at this point?
Right. I definitely think that you have to get to a point where you want that change, where you're ready to send that message, where you're not going to accept where you're at anymore. I think if someone's curious about doing a triathlon, doing something new, doing a fitness competition, just stay curious and try to take some of the steps, see what it's like, push outside the comfort zone. Yes, it's called the comfort zone for a reason, right? But I mean, after the race, I even tattooed it on my arm. It says anything is possible, and it's just a reminder, like, even to myself, that literally anything is possible if you think about it and you put your mind to it. So even if you're on an elliptical, just wishing you could do something, just know, like, if I can make it to Kona, I'm telling you, anybody, like, you put your mind to it, you can do it.
I think that I always feel like the inception of the thought is the moment, right? Like the second you even like, man, could I?
You put it into
even what you
existence.
said, like, no longer accepting where you are, right?
Right.
It's like, that is a key component, because you always say it always is the decision. Like, the decision is the thing. It isn't like, now I'm ready, now life is perfect for this, or now I think
right. The stars are never going to align
It's
the
more like, you
right
made a
way.
decision.
Where, like, but I always feel like once you start thinking about it, if that thought comes back in, like it's fluttering in and out,
Right.
like, or you keep kind of like glancing at things like that, it's like you're in,
it.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
why are you waiting? You're already there.
And we say it all the time, you wouldn't have those thoughts if it was something that wasn't for you, or that was something that actually didn't call you.
Right.
So it can
Right.
seem impossible, it can seem like I can never do that, or girls all the time are like, I'm always feeling like, who the fuck do I think I am? You know, I felt that way too, but it's like, but if the thought is there for you, like, how many thoughts do you not have, right?
Right.
Like, how many things do you not want to go do? They don't even cross your mind, but the thing that does cross your mind, or the thing you do look at for a little bit longer, is obviously a thing for you somehow, right? That you should at least try or think about, or
100%
be
agree.
curious about. What would you say the most impactful part of this whole journey has been for you?
I would definitely say that the mindset piece that we've talked about, right? Like, I feel the physical element and pushing yourself, again, how far can I do it? Can I really do it? Yeah, that you can do that. You can make that decision, but the mindset has to match it. So just even core to like my values is you have to move your body, you have to work on your mindset, then you can change your life. Like, those are the things that have to come in combination together to really kind of up level.
I love that.
Yeah, I do have one more question. It's like, what do you wish more people knew about triathlons?
They seem intimidating. People are really intimidated by triathlon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of
17 hours.
No, you don't have to go that far.
But that's your cutoff.
Yeah.
If you haven't finished by then, like.
If you break it down into smaller chunks, it is a great sport. How do I want to say it? It's a way to cross train, honestly, right? It's not all running. It is not all biking. It is not all swimming. It is a great sport to do 3 different things, to try and stay injury free, right? Because you're mixing it up and you're helping your body in that way, which is part of why I did it. Just, you gotta stay injury free, and mixing it up does it. So don't let it seem intimidating. Start small, give it a try. Find someone who can help you, whether it's a friend or
Absolutely.
a coach, because a community is a huge part of triathlon. And so many people have given me so much advice that has gone a long way.
Wow, that was
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Guys, I think that this is one of those where you definitely want to go back and listen. We are going to have so many different clips to share from this episode, because there were so many things that were said that go hand in hand with everything that we talk about, and her story definitely lines up with everything that we preach and everything that we want for everybody that listens to our show. So thank you, everybody, and
Thanks
Thanks for
Jen,
having me on.
for
I
the show.
appreciate it.
That was awesome.
For all of you that are watching, you know what to do. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the things that people do on podcasts. Peace out, everybody.
Bye, guys.